Hey twin, I hope you're having a lovely day today. So nice out with all these clouds and the air is just getting so crisp and nippy. Snuggle weather. So excited. But I wanted to elaborate on my video previously because I'm not here to explain myself, but I am here to share my experiences because they are reflecting a lot of the things that you're going through. Now, mind you, we're each in our own lived experiences, so people, places, situations can vary, but the energy, the importance of the situation is still the same. And you know, your boundaries are not unreasonable. Your boundaries are pretty much shared by majority. I mean, yeah, we should consider each individual, and it's like, yes, we're all one, but we're celebrating our individuality. Because something that came to me about that whole mindset of being all one, it's a slippery slope into the New World Order, which I will make another video because I have a main thread here that I want to kind of stay on. But so I wanted to kind of elaborate on the circumstances that led up to me stepping away from certain people and situations. If you haven't seen my previous videos, twin, for the first 10 years of my life, I was groomed and molested from birth till 10 years. And just kind of always been the emotional partner for my parents, both my mother and my father. But my mother knew what was going on in my childhood, in my infancy to childhood, and she didn't do anything because she was just frozen in her own trauma. I know she had experienced similar things or the same things because when I had confronted her about it in May of 2024, she had said, like, towards the end of our interaction, that it had also happened to her. But the year prior, like it was around Christmas time in 2023, I had mentioned to her that I knew I was groomed and molested from a young age. And at the time, she tried to mask her fear that I had figured it out. And she asked me, oh, do you know who it was? And at the time, I did know who it was, but I didn't say anything because I wanted to gauge her reaction. And I said, no, I don't really know who it was, but I just know that it happened. And she's like, oh, well, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. She's like, you know, I think that a lot of people, the reason why people are gay is because they were molested as children. And I was looking at her and I'm like, I know a lot of people in LGBTQIA+ that have not been molested at all. And I'm like, okay. But that's the main reason why. And she told me, she was like, well, when I had confronted her that it was her stepfather last year, she was like, what, am I supposed to cut off my mother too? And I was just like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying I'm not gonna be talking to her or being around her or any of them. And you know, I chose myself. So I don't interact with her anymore. I choose to let her be on her merry way. I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna convince anybody. And then my dad, like I mentioned previously, I had confronted him about being his emotional partner through, 8th grade up until about senior year. And then he proceeds to go spread lies about me to his wife and my other siblings, those that I don't really interact as much. There's a face in this tree right here that's staring at me. But anyways, thank you, tree. Hi. And then he goes around spreading lies about me, thinking that I'm not gonna know, but I'm always gonna find out. And then when he calls me, I'm just very indifferent with him. And he knows that I know, but he's too chicken to say anything. And so he just feigns. And whatever. I don't really make much effort to interact with him. But without them, we've known each other for, 23 years, I would say. And when we started talking again a few years ago, like, we just picked right up where we left off. But then, and he supported me throughout my whole decision to not interact with my mother and to basically phase myself out of that family. If my siblings wish to talk to me, they know how to get a hold of me. But earlier, well, actually it was on 4th of July, I went over to his house with the kids to barbecue and have fun, hang out before I had to take them to their dad's. And his sister ends up coming over with her 2 kids who are teenagers. She has a son, I believe he's the same age as my eldest, 17. And her daughter, I believe, is like a couple years younger. They're not adults, they're kids, they're teenagers. And they got picked up by their dad, but before they did, I had bought some taco meats. I was making tacos and I was cooking it in batches because the grill could only hold so much food, and we were just cooking all different things. And I made tacos for her son because he wanted some, but her daughter didn't. And then the rest of the tacos I made for Al and her mom. And then I was gonna make more meat. Well, then the dad of her kids picked them up, and her fiance comes over not long after. And my kids were in Alta's room. My youngest was playing on the Switch and hanging out, and then I noticed, it was lunchtime, so I made him some lunch. I was like, oh, come eat. And he was sitting at the dining table, and next to him was the sister's fiance. And mind you, like, once she had got there, she sat down at the dining table, put something on her phone, and then just started knocking back shots of Crown Royal, like, in succession. It wasn't like sipping, a glass. Like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, you want to celebrate, you want to have fun, like, totally. That's no issue there, right? But just shot after shot. It must have been at least 4 or 5 shots by the time he sat down at the table. And as he was eating, she notices, and I'm standing there with him, helping him with something, and she proceeds to look him up and down as he's sitting in the chair. And she looks at me and she's like, oh, you got a little man on your shoulders right here. And I looked at her and I was like, oh, he's 8, you know, like he's a kid. I go, but she was like, no, you got a little man right here on your shoulders. And she just kept looking him up and down. And I just kind of like froze, because this is Alta's family. Like, this is Alta's house. But I was under the impression by him and his mom that I was part of the family. That, not that it's my house, but that, you know, you're at a certain like, just basically, like, I was told that I was part of the family. So I froze and I didn't really say anything, but I saw my son feeling a little uneasy. So I said, no, I'm gonna say something. But I didn't want to cause a scene right there in the house in front of everybody and make a big deal and ruin the day. So I was just replaying conversations over in my head throughout the whole time and fawning. And then I saw what I felt was the perfect moment when his sister, her fiance, and I were at the grill outside by ourselves. His uncle was there, but he was far off on the porch under the gazebo talking on the phone. And it's not, you know, I didn't yell or anything. I just told the fiance, I was like, hey, you know, I just want to let you know that for the first 10 years of my life, I was groomed and molested. And whenever I see or hear children being hypersexualized, I'm gonna say something. And the way you were talking about my son earlier today, that is something that other people have said about him and have turned out to be pedophiles, turned out to have pedophilic tendencies. I go, I'm not calling you a pedophile. I'm saying that what you're saying aligns with the conditioning of that anomaly, that aspect. And, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But basically, she didn't hear a single word I said except pedophile, and then proceeded to blow up and say, how can you call me that? I always say that to my fiance's kids, this and this and that, and da da da. And I'm like, this is the only second time I'm meeting this person. Like, if your fiance wants to let you talk that way to her children, like, that's between you two. But I go, this is a boundary that I need to set, because I can't allow that. And so they got all offended and they went inside, made a huge scene. Alta and his mom got involved. They got all upset. Of course the day was ruined, and his mom was just like, oh, it was the devil, we were having fun. And I'm like, who was the devil here? Me or the fiance? Was it the fiance? Because the fiance was just guzzling down whiskey at the table without eating or anything. Just guzzling down whiskey for about 20 minutes. Or was it me? Because I actually have the gall to say something, to enforce my boundaries that supposedly they both were supporting me on, but once it applied to them, they couldn't support me. And I'm not gonna make anyone choose. I'm always just gonna choose myself. So even though he said he supported me, and he was like, oh, I'm done talking about this, as I was getting stuff ready to leave, because it was getting towards the time where I had to take the kids back. And I hear him and his mom still talking about it in their kitchen. And I was like, see, this is why I isolate. This is why I stay away, because I'm too much. I'm too much. And our friendship became pretty rocky after that. His birthday came around about a month later, and I was like, hey, you know, your birthday's coming up and we should hang out and this and this and that. I go, you know, if you're not doing anything on your birthday, like, let's hang out. I go, but if you're gonna do something with your family, like, that's understandable. I'll come by another time. So, you know, it turns out his sister did go over, and they had cake and everything. And then Saturday morning, I was like, hey, you know, you want to hang out today? And he was like, oh, I'm going to Knott's. I don't have a Knott's pass currently. So I was like, oh, okay, we'll have fun. And then he was like, oh, do you want to go to the casino tomorrow? I was like, yeah, let's do that. That's going to be great. And then Sunday rolls around, and he texts me. He's like, oh, I'm too tired and broke. I can't go. So I'm like, okay, you know, whatever. Then, like, a week or so later, a couple weeks later, he's like texting me, and he's all upset. And he's like, because I just started focusing more on myself and doing what I want to do. And he was texting me and saying, like, oh, you know, I feel this rift, da da da, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, you know, let's hang out, let's talk about it. So that's when we hung out, like, that weekend, and we ended up shrooming. And I had seen the whole, like, the night before, I had seen the whole conversation, and we hadn't even, like, agreed to shroom. Like, we hadn't even talked about that. But the night before, I woke up at like 2 in the morning and then saw the whole conversation line for line, and I was just like, okay. So when we were in the midst of it, I even told him, I was like, dude, I've seen this whole conversation, everything. I knew that he was still angry about what happened on 4th of July. And he was mad because I didn't go through him to talk to the sister's fiance. And it's like, we're adults. That's something I always hated about my former husband's family as well. That you're not allowed to talk to the person you have an issue with. You have to go around through other fucking people to cut out the middleman, literally. It doesn't matter whose house it is, where you are, what you're fucking doing. Like, if someone can say something that makes me uncomfortable, then I can say something to them that makes them uncomfortable. I'm not the only one who has to suck it up. No. So I told him all that. And so, you know, I knew our friendship was by no means repaired after that night. But because of his attachment to me, we would still hang out. I'd stay over. And all the times that I stayed over, I always got pink eye. I sleep in my makeup, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've been changing my beauty routine, and I work to wash my face at night as well. But sometimes I'm just like in the flow of things, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh, I should probably go to sleep now, and I don't take off my makeup. I mean, it's just eyeliner and mascara anyways, but I mean, you should take care of your eyes. So, but I never get pink eye at home. That never happens. And at his house, he lets the dogs all over his bed. So when I would sleep there, I would pull the top cover away, and I'd sleep in the bottom corner where they're not really at. Thinking, because the first time I got it, I thought it was because of the dogs sleeping on the bed or being on the bed. And I was like, okay. So then the next time when I went over, I pulled the cover back and still got it. I still got the pink eye. And the same eye. It was the left one. Thank you, universe. So when my birthday came around, I mean, like I said, he went back to the hospital a couple times for infections, and I wasn't able to go. And then that last time I went to his house, and all that weird, heavy energy, it just was the nail in the coffin when he texted me on my birthday, happy birthday, hope you enjoy your day. So I was like, okay. I just said thanks, Al. And I even noticed when I was talking to him when he was in the hospital the last time, and he's like, oh, my mom said that you've been ignoring her. She said you didn't text her back. And I mean, I took a screenshot of the last text that was there, and it was me saying something to her, and she didn't reply to me. She left me on red, and I sent it to him, and he was like, oh, never mind then. And I was like, okay. It is what it is till it isn't anymore. And so, my plate is full, my cup overflows, and all I can do is just keep going. And one day Alta may catch up again, who knows? But with my other friend and her husband, I've known them for about 10 years, and it's always kind of been touch and go with them, in the sense of how much I want to interact, because I'm getting a call. Okay, so I had been on the fence about hanging out with them, just because my friend, she's a really awesome person. She's a literal oracle. She can see and know things before they even happen. She's predicted people's passings. She's predicted all kinds of things. She's super fucking cool. I do respect her and appreciate her. But there's just a lot of times where she steamrolls me, and that's my fault. I should stand up for myself and say, speak up more, use my throat chakra, which I have been recently, when we started hanging out more this year, because we kind of just hung out here and there. Her and her husband been going through financial issues for the past year, but they're fine. They're on the up and up, and she kept inviting me over to go eat dinner, and I love her cooking. She's an amazing cook, a chef, and it was just when I would be there, and I bring stuff for them, and I've helped them with stuff for their son for his senior year. And it's just like a few times, like when her husband wanted something, she would look at me and ask me to go get it for him. And I'm just like, So I would, because if you ask me to do something and if I'm not busy or doing something in the moment and it's of no big deal to me, sure, I'll say yes. But if you see I'm doing something and you ask me, I'm probably gonna say no. Depending on situation, person, whatever, but definitely not falling into the slippery slope of people pleasing. You know, you take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. You're still gonna take 1 step each day. So I just kind of like getting this weird inkling. And then one of the last times that I was over there before my birthday, as I was leaving, they were being all cuddly and like affectionate with each other, like right in front of me as I'm walking out the door, and they're like walking me out, and like he's behind her walking and like snuzzling all on her and like kissing on her, and they're all smiling and giddy and looking at me, and I was just like, I'm not a third wheel. I was like, okay guys, take care, and I went out. I left. I was like, bye. And pretty much won't be going over there by myself anymore. You know, actions speak louder than words. Because they can say one thing, but if they turn around and do something totally different, they're truly showing you what they meant. So I'll see you in the next one, twin. Take care. Love ya.